Hi guys, I thought I would do a really quick video today. I saw a Facebook reel that I thought was really interesting. It was about breadcrumbing, and I'm familiar with the term just from my education and too from personal experience. I think that we've all experienced it. Anybody who's been in a relationship as an adult that's not the breadcrumber has probably been breadcrumbed. But I wanted to give you guys some information about how to break that cycle. If you're not familiar with the term breadcrumbing, I recommend Googling that. I just don't want to take the time in the video to explain it, but how to break that cycle. Basically, when you notice that someone is love bombing you and you're getting all this affection at first and all this attention, that's great. Take it, love it, enjoy it. And when you notice that they gradually start like dwindling that down, well, and so that's normal to some extent in a relationship, but what's not normal is when they start to demonstrate other tendencies like silent treatment and fading away into the dark spots of the relationship. Like they throw up stuff in the past, they accuse you of things, that kind of thing. They actually start to get a real negative cycle involved, and then they just kind of disappear altogether for a while, and then they come back, and then they disappear, and then they come back, and then they disappear. So how do you break that cycle? Well, for one, you may not want to completely break it, but your goal as the breadcrumbee is either to break it all together and break away from the breadcrumber, because it's not usually the healthiest of situations, or you have to learn how to control what crumbs you are getting. So you don't want the crumbs. You either want 100%, and in a normal relationship, maybe it'll drop down over a couple of years to like 60%, just depending on where you started from. But you want the whole thing. So when you see this start to happen, what you have to do is you have to go quiet first. You have to pull away first. If you're being breadcrumbed, when you notice this cycle is starting, when the breadcrumber starts to come back and starts to message you and text you and tell you they miss you, etc., etc., then you have to go into, you kind of have to manipulate them a little bit because they're manipulating you. You have to go quiet and you have to not respond to their crumbs. So what they'll do is they'll start putting more crumbs out, and then before you know it, there's a whole plate in front of you, and you can choose to either take the plate or ignore it and push it back and get out of the cycle altogether, or you can just keep taking from the breadcrumber, and eventually they're gonna learn something from it. They're gonna learn that you're not one to be crumbed. You want all or nothing. Or they are going to move on to a new person to do this same cycle with that maybe is a little bit easier to manage. So you have to be prepared for that outcome. You also have to consider like if it's worth it or not. Like, what does that full plate look like to you? Like a full plate to some people might be a full plate of diamonds and a couple, like expensive gifts and some things that could maybe, I don't know, getting some time away from your job to be able to complete your education, paying off your credit card bills. To some people, that full plate, it might be worth, learning to reverse the cycle of breadcrumbing. But for some people, it could just be, it could just not be worth it. But since I know there's some people out there that are going to, opt to take the crumbs just because you're used to this cycle, what I encourage you to do is pull away long enough to get more added to the plate, and the crumber will eventually start building it back up, and eventually they'll slide that full plate back in front of you. And if they don't and they move on to a new supply, don't worry, the new supply will get tired of it too. They always circle back. There's no real permanent discard with people like that. Even if you think you've been permanently discarded because you've not heard from them in a couple of years, trust me, they still come back. But when they do, they better come back with a full plate if you're going to opt to take it. If you're not going to take it, then just block them, ignore them, and cut them off altogether. Most of the time, that's the healthier mental case. But I do, as a human being, recognize that full plate can look pretty dang good sometimes. So if you're being breadcrumbed, don't take the crumbs. Make them gradually start adding to that plate until they slide you a 4-course meal in front of you. And then it's up to you. That's my advice. Thanks, guys. Bye.